How's it going, guys? It's Kurto from Iconz Rugby. This is first instalment of Iconz Rugby coaching. Basically, based on the video last week, we got a lot of feedback, and we thank you all for tuning in and watching. As you'll know, our little story from Iconz. And we've touched on, as we do mentoring, and we're getting a lot of people who, I always get guys who come to me and say, oh, I ask for feedback, I talk to coaches, and we always tell players to talk to coaches, but it doesn't seem to be going anywhere, like it doesn't go anywhere. And I know myself as a coach, it is extremely frustrating when someone comes to you with the most vague question ever and kind of wants the world. All players want the world. So it's basically, it's where we're at with talking about how to talk to coaches. The biggest thing for me is a little bit about my background. I've been coaching since I was about 22, 23. Started coaching at Norths and moved my way to Souths, then Sunnybank. I've been overseas coaching in Kenya full time. And in that whole time, we've had Iconz Rugby, which I've probably put in, 30, 40 man hours a week coaching people one-on-one and in groups. And where we've learned a lot of our trade, myself and Manny, is in the aspect of dealing with players when they're outside that team dynamic. When you get a player who is one of 30 and with one or two coaches and, the contact time they get is maybe 5 minutes a week, with that actual coach for feedback or warranted advice. And normally the coach is so exhausted and so run down, he gives the most generic advice. You got to work on your defense, you got to work on your passing, you got to work on your game management, like all these broad terms. But what is it actually broken down to? Like, how does that relate to that player? And today's not about talking about coaching ability and all that kind of stuff. That's another topic. We'll get to that. But it's really about how do players engage a coach where they force the coach to give feedback. And if not feedback, how do they pick that coach's brain to get better? Now, the biggest thing for me is most players are fucking not self-aware. They have no idea what they're doing wrong. They think, oh, I need to work on my defense. No, you've got a whole issue. There's a massive issue there. You're not strong enough in contact, pre-contact, post-contact, your vision before the game, you're not reading the play. There's so much. If you break down, we're going to talk around defense. Let's use defense as a topic. And if you break down the defensive structure, for a player, it starts as soon as the play starts. So if you're a winger, that could be a 30 to 40 second period. If you're one off the ruck or even as an A defender in league, that process is 3 to 4 seconds. You've got to make decisions. If you're a little bit wider, you've got to adjust and watch and get yourself in a good position. And normally by the time you miss the tackle, you've done about 30 things wrong to actually make you miss the tackle. It's got nothing to do with the contact zone. You fucked up 4 or 5 stages before that. And for a coach to identify that straight after a game or even after a video review is extremely hard. But as a player, you need to take responsibility on your own advice. Demand the feedback that you're getting. So, for example, if I'm a player and I know my defense is bad and I'm getting caught out in a certain situation, let's say, they beat a player on the outside and I don't know whether to go in or out. Instead of going to the coach and saying, oh, what do I need to do there? How about you ask him for advice in a more detailed situation? So explain the scenario and get the coach's feedback and, what's the word I'm looking for? His vision on how that play should play out. So when you're in a team that's not at the top, so we're talking maybe first grade, second grade, around that, if you get, and you're missing tackles and the coach says you got bad defense, if you ask him for what part, and he kind of goes, oh, you got to work on your contact zone. It's probably before the contact zone. The contact zone is the issue that you see. But is it your foot placement? Is it your hips? Is it your timing? Is it your vision? Is it your communication? Are you even looking at the right part? And for me, if I get a player who comes to me and says, bro, I keep getting beaten on the outside. I think I'm too far away. I'm finding myself watching this, and this. Is that correct? Now, as a coach, that is extremely easy to dissect and go, mate, I think you need to do this, and this. Go away and work on this, and you'll be a better player. Or if you find yourself in those situations, up your standards or your vision on this. Start looking here and identifying hips and movement and ball carry, whatever that coach's passions are. Every coach has a different kind of vision on what they think defense is. But do you understand how that advice you get back is not just oh, he can't tackle or he doesn't do this. And for players who are looking to move up the ranks and you're like pigeonholed in, let's say, a second grade or a first grade and you can't move up to Prem Reserve or whatnot, that's really important, you know, because the coach, you might think in a situation, oh, I need to do this. But that coach might actually think that's completely wrong and he'd rather you defend a different way. But if you don't ask him the specific question in a scenario, how are you meant to get the right advice? It's like going to the doctor and saying, I'm sick. The doctor then has to ask you like 30 questions about you to find out what's wrong with you. But if you go to the doctor and go, got a cough, got this, got that, got this, tried this, tried that, tried this, tried that, still doesn't work, the doctor can then go, okay, based on the information you've given me, I think it could be this, this and this. Now, where that is so much more adventurous to a rugby scenario is that that coach actually gets to see you 3-4 times a week and he can give you better advice. It's a really, really frustrating point, and I've got a lot of coaches on this feed at the moment and a lot of guys who I've seen are interested in this event. I know they're going to relate to the point. There is nothing more frustrating than having a player coming up to you after the game or even first night at training go, how do I get better? Fuck, man, if you don't know, you're playing the wrong sport. Like, take some accountability for your own actions. You know, come to the coach with a plan or an idea and brainstorm together. Make it easy for the coach who's dealing with 30 other individuals to be engaged in what you're talking about. You know, it's not getting into how much effort coaches should put in, and that's another topic, but I know myself as a coach, I get really angry or when someone comes to me with just a dumb question. And the thing is that you can't say it's a dumb question and you can't feedback that player because they'll get upset and then they might not come to training and then you've got to worry about a whole nother bunch of things. But basically what you need to do is kind of give that coach some hints on what you're looking for. That's the biggest point that I'm looking for. That's how you communicate to coaches. It's pretty plain and simple. How do I get better? Even that's too broad. It's how do I get better at this? I find this is going on. Am I right or am I wrong? Does that make sense, guys? You know, do you know what I'm talking about? It's that point where you're just so worried about yourself and you're getting told to talk to coaches, and you're asking them shit questions. Of course they're going to tell you nothing and you're going to go nowhere. You're not going to improve. And then you go externally and go, I've got to go to the gym and I've got to do this and I've got to do that. Yeah, they're all parts of it, but man, if you can't catch pass properly, if you can't catch pass throw a 20-metre ball both ways, don't ask the coach like, oh, how's my attack? Fuck, man, you should be able to do that shit. Ask him for a drill. Ask him for something that you can improve. Go, my right to left is pretty poor. I find myself off balanced. How do I improve that? Okay, man, no worries. Let me watch you pass. Okay, cool. I see this, this, and this. You've now fixed the problem in 30 seconds. It's not hard, guys. And I guess touching on the coaches, how to communicate to a coach goes both ways. And who to talk to and how and when to talk to them. Right after a game is probably the worst time to talk to a coach. If a coach wants to talk to you, he will come to you and talk to you about your game. It's the worst time straight, oh, how did I go? How did I go? That coach, he ain't thinking about that. Now with coaches, their number one thing is to win. That's how they're rated. That's how they're guaranteed their winnability. All right? Then it's how they communicate and all that kind of stuff. You can be the worst communicator in the world and still be the best coach if you win. It helps if you can communicate. So a lot of coaches need to work on their communication styles, but that's what we're talking about. So in that aspect of the coach communicating right and when to communicate them, for me personally, the best time is probably via text, email, or a phone call, external of the date of the game. Or after a training or something like that. A complete different time from when rugby's gone. A lot of coaches will put feedback areas in, like a video session. If your team and that does a video session, that is the perfect time because it's in a review process. So that's the perfect time to do it. You know, so who to talk to? Sometimes the best coach sometimes the head coach is not the best guy. You know, if he has assistants, normally you'll get along with one of those assistants better. And maybe it's better for you to communicate to an assistant. You've got to have a relationship. The other thing that I think is missing with feedback when it comes to coaches is talk to your players around and get feedback. Like, the best person to talk to around feedback is your peer, the guy next to you. Hey bro, I keep missing that tackle. What do you think, man? From the player's point of view. Take that information, then go to the assistant coach or the head coach, whoever you've got a better relationship with. You know, when you've got that relationship, raise those issues. If that problem isn't fixed there, let's say by an assistant coach, he will then go to the head coach and say, hey, Johnny Benmoni has come to me and said, you know, his defense isn't right. I said, you know, our philosophies are around this. We want him to be able to do this. Is there any other information I should go back and talk to him with? Or do you want to talk to him? All of a sudden that coach, the head coach, can give his feedback and pass it through his assistants, or he can come to you directly. Like, it's not rocket science, guys. It really isn't. Like, you don't go up to the general manager of your company and sit there and say, how do I get better at my job? You go to your next in charge. So go to your captain first. Then go to like the coach who's ahead of your, like if you're a backs coach, or if it's defense, go talk to the defense coach. If it's a training problem, go talk to the S&C coach. If it's a niggle, go talk to the fucking physio. Now this is probably the biggest area where physios are seen not like coaches. We don't talk to them. We don't communicate with them. And it's the worst thing. And then players wonder why they're out for 5 to 6 weeks instead of being out for 1 to 2 or manageable. You know, so you got to open up your communication lines from a player's point of view. Okay? The guide to how to do it, I'll be releasing there's an kind of resource on this that I'll detail it for you if you need it written down on the steps to take and how to take them. But I guess for me, guys, my biggest point is you've got to have details when you go to the coach. It can't be a broad subject. How's my defense? How do I get better at defense? Fuck me, man. If you don't know, like, bro, you are the most frustrating player in the world and you need to go look in the mirror. You know, everyone knows, let's put it in a different context. I need to lose weight. Well, fucking eat right and train right. Like, do the little things. So that's really about, like, that topic isn't around senior players. If you're a school-age player, I think it's a little bit different. You probably don't have the knowledge to dissect your game a lot more, and that applies a lot more feedback from coaches in and around techniques. I think the best thing for a school player to do is more around a drill. Most school-age or coaches will drill their whole process. So they'll do drill to drill to drill to drill to drill, and that's how they want to play. So if you don't quite get a drill, or you're not perfecting it, or you're not the best at that drill, ask the coach where you can improve in that drill. Then you'll see yourself on the field getting a little bit, oh, okay, cool, I realised that my foot wasn't close enough in defence, or I got out of my defensive line, I didn't maintain my structure and I got beaten on the inside. All of a sudden you can go back to that drill and say, coach, I noticed in that drill I wasn't quite getting it right. It happened to me on the weekend. What do I need to do to fix it? All of a sudden the coach he's engaged in the conversation. Does that make sense? And this is information on communicating. It's asking questions to receive answers that you actually want, not just throwing things out there for fucking, like for a like and shit like that. It's being detailed. If you want advice, and this goes into the business world as well. Let's say you want advice or you want help from someone with something. Don't go to a mentor or a business coach or someone who you look up to and say, can you help me? Now all of a sudden they've got 1,000 things to fucking think of how can I help this guy? Oh shit, that's a lot of work. Most successful people or people in higher positions are stressed. They've got a lot of going on. So come to them with exactly what you need. So you got a business, you're looking to increase cash flow. Hey mate, I do this. I've noticed this is falling down. Can you help me with my cash flow problem? I've noticed you do this, this and this. I really like that concept. Could you teach me on how to implement that in my company? Or could you help me do this? Do you see how now that guy can actually help you? It's just like a coach. That coach can actually help you get better in defense if you ask the right questions. So guys, this was just a quick one in how to communicate to coaches. There's a little gold nugget there at the end. I think that's probably the most important thing. If you want to know, ask the right questions. Okay? The biggest thing that we see a lot is players are scared of the truth. They are scared to get the fucking right information. And they believe by hiding behind their little insecurities around, oh, well, my defense isn't good enough or this isn't good enough. Everything is just a process. If you tick the 10 out of 10 boxes that it needs to take to make an effective tackle, you're going to make the tackle. If you start missing those boxes, you're increasing your chances to miss. And I believe that league has this on point. They talk about positive negatives, positive negatives, positive negatives. Everything you do, positive tick, negative tick. If you get more positives than negatives, you get the job done. All right? Does that make sense? Union's a little bit more, you missed the tackle. Or it's a little bit more blasé. We don't do the details in what we need to do. And I think that's what we're missing. And I think coaches can have a big example there on improving that area. But players need to take ownership. It comes from the player. You know if you ticked all the boxes or didn't. There's a reason why you missed that tackle. And you can go through your process and find out why. And for a lot of guys, they don't even know the process. The reason they don't know the process is because you don't pay attention at training, you don't ask the right questions, and you're going to get to 25, 26 and wonder why you never fucking made it. And then you're going to blame the world, and you're going to end up as a factory worker or doing something else. It's just how it works. Because you didn't ask the right questions, you didn't commit to your future, and you didn't talk to your coaches in the right manner. Now, probably going to get some blowback from this. I'm a little bit passionate about this subject, and I'll be the first one to admit over the years, I've probably been really, really bad at this subject. I have given players terrible advice. As a coach, I've given them terrible advice, given them wrong things, haven't researched, give them things that they probably want to hear on the basis that I don't want to upset them too much, but I'm still honest enough to tell them the truth, but I sugarcoat it. There's no sugar in a football game. All right, you want sugar, go to Krispy Kremes or something. You've got to be straight to the point, and it's got to be hard and direct without being a dickhead about it. Okay, and in the past I've been a dickhead, and I'm the first one to admit that, but what I've learned is how to communicate better with players. Okay, and that's the most important thing from a coach. If there's any coaches on this that are listening and you want to talk a bit of shop, I think we're going to have, in the next couple of weeks, maybe a little bit of a question answer of questions you can send through. So if you want anything discussed or raised, message us at Iconz Rugby and we'll be able to give you some feedback or put it in an open forum. For players who are looking to get better, we do a lot of technical sessions here that can improve you, and we can dissect it and not chew up the time of your coach who has 4 hours a week to deal with 30 people, including up teams and down teams. So be a little bit compassionate if they don't get back to you straight away, or you don't get the advice that's going to move you forward. If you want some detailed advice, go seek out an expert. If the coach doesn't know, be man enough to tell the player, man, I really don't know, I'm going to have to ask for help. All coaches don't know it all. If you don't know the exact right answer, find someone who does. So guys, that's just a little bit on what we've got. If you'd like the kind of resource on this, on how to track that, who to talk to, how to talk to them, best principles. If you need to talk on the phone, give us a call or message us at Iconz Rugby. We'll get back to you. And comment below or message us if you want the e-resource. It will go through. So guys, just a real quick one on how to communicate to coaches. Point number 1, be direct and know what you're looking for. Point number 2 is make sure that you are respectful to the coach and the coach is respectful to you with what you're asking. All right? Don't ask them to make a fucking man mountain for you if you can't even take care of your own shit. All right? Peace out, guys.